Let's talk about Nvidia, stock symbol NVDA. This stock is set to report earnings on Wednesday, and it's the most anticipated earnings report of the season. So, what is the market expecting? Well, last earnings report, it sold off 8.5%. This time around, it's expecting, based off of what I'm seeing in the options market, it's expecting about a 10% move as a result of its earnings report. Now, that could be 10% higher, 10% lower. Also, if you're trying to play straddles, that's going to cost you like $939. So it's a very, very expensive earnings play right now. So what I want to do in this video is to really dissect the charts. What are we looking at from resistance, from support? What are the key levels to watch as we go into this earnings report? And what can we do in reaction to that earnings report? We're going to talk about all of that and more starting right now. So let's look at this NVIDIA chart, shall we? First off, you have the rise in trend line off of the April 7th lows. This stock has gone up 56% off of its April 7th lows. So we're talking about a $3 trillion stock, now at least. Before it wasn't quite that high, it was in the twos, but it's over $3 trillion now and has risen 56%. That's just unheard of for companies of this size to be able to do something like that in that short of order. But nonetheless, here we are. Rise in trend line, that's intact. Now, you also have this declining trend line that goes back to its all-time highs. It's broken through that. Now, this was a key level for it to break through on this whole journey here. Bouncing off it, came up against it for 2 days, consolidated just beneath it. Then it had a huge gap higher with the tariff news. That got it through the resistance without actually having to test it, back over the 200-day moving average as well. So now we're consolidating. We've been consolidating for about 2 weeks now. What are we looking at with this chart? We've broken the declining trend line. That was huge because it had been tested on multiple occasions. We've held this rising trend line. We're up 56%. Now we have a bull flag consolidating. It hasn't broken out of it just yet, but it's a really solid bull flag. We can create the parallel line here, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So bull flag pattern, right on the cusp of breaking out of it, needs to hold this rising trend line. So if you play it with a stop loss below the rising trend line, that becomes a little bit more problematic because you're dealing with a much wider stop loss, close to 10%. So I don't like that. So for this scenario, I'd probably be putting it beneath the lows from May 23rd, last Friday. But with earnings coming out, playing earnings, especially on a stock like Nvidia, yeah, it may work out for you, but managing the risk is very difficult to do. So if you get long on it, you could have something that happens like last earnings season where you see an 8.5% sell-off. So you have to be really careful. For me personally, I don't play the earnings. I don't think it's worth holding a stock through earnings. So I just avoid it altogether from a swing trading standpoint. So going into it, it's very difficult, let's say tomorrow prior to earnings, if it breaks out of that bull flag pattern, to really play it. Now, I like the bull flag, and I would be willing to play it if it wasn't because of earnings. Now, with earnings, let's say you get a positive reaction to it. Well, you got this huge level of resistance right here. Now, I know it doesn't connect the dots perfectly from a highs and lows standpoint, but what you have here though is a really nice layer of resistance that the stock has not been able to close above at all. Actually, it hasn't been able to close above. So you got this like 150 level that it needs to get above. Right here, you can see where it tried to break out back on November 21st, was not able to do that. And then again, twice in January, wasn't able to do that. So I think this is a key level going into earnings. Let's say the reaction is very positive. This is where I see the battle unfolding at around this 149, 150 level. Can it break through that level on a positive earnings report? If it does, then it's blue skies above it. But remember, it needs to close above that level there. From a long-term standpoint, we have this trend line that goes all the way back to 2022, 2023. It's tested it on multiple occasions. Most recently, it tested it off of those April 7th lows. So this is a huge support level right here. I don't think that this is in play. I mean, I could be wrong. I've seen stocks like Meta drop 20% because of its earnings, not recently, but I have seen it before. So it is possible that you could get a nasty drop. We saw 8.5% last earnings. You double that, you're starting to talk about, this support level being in play. But again, I don't necessarily expect that to be the case. I think the street in general tends to lowball the mega cap stocks because they're so heavily vested in them. They want them to clear that hurdle of earnings each time. They want them to jump to the upside after each earnings report. So typically the bar is very low for Nvidia going into earnings. And so if it gets a negative reaction to it, I don't necessarily see it getting all the way down here. And with what we've seen from the dip buyers of late, I would be shocked if you didn't see some attempt to buy the dip early on as well. Nonetheless, I'm not playing it because I can say all that stuff and then you actually deal with the earnings and you deal with a much different scenario that can be catastrophic to your portfolio. So again, I don't play it from a swing trading standpoint, but these are the technical levels that I would watch. First and foremost, this rising trend line. If you have a bad earnings report, I think this is the first trend line that comes into play. This down here, that's long term. You would need a much bigger market sell-off in order for that to come into play, in my opinion. To the upside, if you have a strong positive reaction, then I think that this 149, 150 level comes into play, but it needs to close above this level to show that it's serious this time about not fading, as we've seen in the previous 3 attempts of trying to break through it. Overall, like I said in the beginning, this is the biggest earnings event in terms of anticipation. It's going to have a huge impact on the NASDAQ, on semiconductors, and on the market as a whole too. What you can oftentimes see result from these earnings reports, let's say it reports really good earnings and it shoots higher. Sometimes it takes the wind out of the sails of all the other stocks, even in the other mega cap stocks, and causes them to struggle some in relation to what Nvidia is able to do. It's like all the capital rotates into Nvidia. It's got so much volume that it can pull from other stocks that it can make other stocks really struggle as a result, even though the earnings comes in really strong for Nvidia. So you want to keep an eye out for that. It used to happen a lot with Apple. You see it to some degree with Nvidia as well. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of playing this going into earnings. Hopefully, and I'm not holding my breath on this, and I doubt it happens, but if it could stay inside of this bull flag pattern post earnings, again, don't expect it to, but if it did, I think that this setup would be a really nice one to play on a Thursday or a Friday. If you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to like and subscribe and let me know down in the comments below, what is your take with Nvidia earnings? What is your expectations? And how do you plan on playing it? Are you going to swing trade it through earnings or not? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you and God bless.